Welcome in to the Irish NFL show in partnership with Pundit Arena Friday Night Lights column. Welcome in. Let's talk some Broncos before we let the other boys in. I'm only joking. How are you? Good?
I'm good, yeah. Been a good day. It's a Friday night, the end of a crazy week, and the Broncos had some good news today. So happy days.
We'll not be biased, and we'll talk about that in a wee bit. We've got Dublin's own Brian O'Leary in as well. Brian, how are you? Good?
Good evening, guys. It's been a busy week for all of us, and in particular our show, which has gone very well this week. We've had a lot to talk about, and again, we can recap what's been a very eventful week in free agency, with still a lot to come in the next week or so.
And a big thanks to our production team behind us as well. This week being a very hard week for the production team, but all good. Unfortunately, Mark couldn't make it tonight. He arrived late, and our new rules state that he's not allowed in after 10 o'clock. That was a joke. Hello, Mark. How are you? Good?
Evening, Michael. I'm all right. Yeah, no, busy busy week for NFL teams, busy week for us and everything. Even the Broncos can do something right as well, which is surprising change. But yeah, no, lots of fun. Long week for everybody. But hey, it's Friday night. Friday Night Lights intro again. So special.
Clear eyes, full hearts. Can't drink.
I'm delighted the Broncos did a bit of business today, and the right business in terms of locking up arguably your best player. Because it's good to see a smile on your two faces for a change.
I want to see them in abject misery, to be honest, Brian. Still,
yeah. We've got a lot of talk about, boys, because in 20 minutes we've got Nate Geary coming on the show, an Irishman who's working on the Buffalo radio scene. So I'm very interested to first of all hear what county he's from. I haven't asked him, so I was on a guess that for a start. But feel free to get your questions in. We're on the Pundit Arena Facebook page. We're obviously on Twitter as well. So Falcha. Big news today, boys, is this Juju Smith-Schuster, who we think may eventually, over the next decade, come on our show at some point. Let's hope. Has signed a deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is this the Ben Roethlisberger effect? I mean, Colin, are you shocked at this? He turned down bigger offers from different teams, including Baltimore.
I'm a little surprised by it, given that he did turn down better offers. He also turned down a better offer, apparently, from the Chiefs, which you would have thought that he would have preferred to be catching the football from Patrick Mahomes, and rather than Ben trying to sling it next season. For the Chiefs, I mean, look, I have been a big fan of what they do in Kansas, despite being a Broncos fan. But it hasn't been a great week. They went big to try and get Trent, but that didn't work. They went to try to get Juju, and that hasn't worked. Look, they'll still be there or thereabouts next season, but definitely disappointing for them, and a little bit surprising. But I'm sure for Steelers fans, they will be happy to have him back. Though, as we said, he has never taken that real leap to become a true WR1.
Yeah, and I think he'll be back in kind of thinking, I kind of got ahead of myself, because he probably always felt he was a number one. And I think the Steelers, as we touched on in the previous episodes, expected him to step up when Antonio Brown went. Not entirely surprised he turned down the Chiefs, because, okay, the Chiefs are challenging, they've gone to Super Bowls, could come back again next year. But they've got a lot of talent, and the ball gets spread around by and large. And I suppose, would he get a lot of the action? I'm not entirely sure. He's got a chance to go back to Pittsburgh now and kind of reevaluate and make that step up. And the Ravens was another interesting one to see that they were in from. But they've been linked to a lot of wide receivers this week, so I'm not entirely sure whether that was an accurate report. And for him to move from the Steelers to the Ravens in a division where it's such a fierce rival, I think he probably looked at that and said that's probably not the right move in the long run. So they got him back, and they've got him back at a very reasonable deal. $7 million salary, $1 million potential bonus. He was out there looking for the 14, 15 million range, which other wide receivers are also looking for, and some have got this week. But he certainly didn't get the offers that he expected.
Not a fresh start for Juju, but a very good fresh start for Mark. Anybody in the podcast looking very fresh today, Mark?
For the beard I shaved off 3 3 days ago, Michael.
Oh. Sorry, it's been a long week.
In fairness, Mark,
it's all right. I mean,
with the lighting, it's difficult to tell. It's like watching you through a fog at times.
Yeah.
There. Look at that.
Yeah, no, it's all clean, but unlike Michael, I learned that you stop at about here. You don't keep going up. Anyway, on Juju Smith-Schuster,
Oh,
Michael,
dear
I
God.
know, I couldn't resist. On Juju Smith-Schuster, I do love his Pittsburgh. Don't worry, you've had my back for 4 years. I've got yours. Let's be clear. He signed a 1-year deal. Like, Juju is still not having a bad business season in relation to it, because next year, as we've talked about, the cap's going to go up. The longer-term cap implications are much bigger. People are going to have more money to play with. So he is playing at risk, don't get me wrong, on a 1-year deal, but he's opening up for a multi-year opportunity next year when he'll also be a free agent. So turning down some of the other offers, which seemed from reports, obviously we weren't, Juju's agents knowing exactly what was in, but it seemed like the other offers were about multi-year contracts, and perhaps this isn't as altruistic as he'd like to position, but it's, I've got a good shot still with the Steelers this year. They are probably likely to be a playoff team. They've at least got an opportunity. It's we talked before about Ben's failing, shall we say, and like they fell off a cliff in the NFC race this year. But it's not like he's playing for the Lions or the Jets, guys. Like, I mean, they have a shot, and they are a decent side. But the 1-year thing is the thing that intrigues me. And yes, he was looking for more money, but maybe this is all about just getting a lot more money in 12 months' time, more than anything.
I think Brian's point is interesting, though. If that is the case, that he decided not to go to the Chiefs because the ball is going to get spread around, that's pretty telling. This is the antithesis of the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin way to actually win a Super Bowl. So I think if he's looking for big money, and probably, potentially somebody will roll the dice next year, but he's going to have to perform. I think it's going to be difficult to perform in that Steelers offense. And while they'll have a tough time getting to the playoffs, the Browns, I think, will be better this year this coming year than they were last year. And I don't know if the Steelers will be. They need to do a lot. I think they've lost again, but Dupree, we will see interesting times ahead.
And I just want to make a point, and I've spoken to a couple of Steelers fans, and there's probably some Steelers fans now, hopefully, that are watching the show tonight, and they might challenge this, but he's perceived to be a difficult character to a certain extent. Like, we saw some of the antics towards the back end of the season, in particular the game against Cincinnati, when we did that show on the Monday night. We were joking about saying, should we even bother talking about this game? It's going to be a walkover. The Bengals went and beat them, but they were so motivated by the fact that he was dancing on the crest on the halfway line, and that type of antics doesn't go down with other teams. And I think he's got, a certain extent, he's got to prove himself this year, and not just on the field, but off the field. Because if he went to Kansas City, for example, and as we discussed there, he wasn't getting the ball, as often as he'd liked, is he the kind of guy after 6 or 7 games will start kind of railroading a potential season to return to the Super Bowl, or certainly return to an AFC Championship game? So, maybe the best bet for him was to go back to Steelers, have a year there, and as Mark said, to reset in 12 months and look where he's at. And, in the end, he might end up staying in Pittsburgh because he has a great season and he gets the long-term contract there, and they might look at the stability around having the same wide receivers, because potentially they could be looking at a new quarterback in 12 months' time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, he's definitely going to get the ball in Pittsburgh, let's be clear. I mean, like, Chase Claypool did at times look like he was going to be a breakout star and had obviously his amazing 4-touchdown game, but wasn't necessarily consistent. But who else is Ben going to throw it to? He's not going to throw it to Deontay Johnson too often, because all Deontay Johnson likes to do is drop the ball on a regular basis. So at least Juju's got that over him and everything. And who knows, maybe Juju's playing with Ninja a bit of Madden this season and takes his game to the next level in his 1-year prove-it deal as well. Certainly very Ninja-esque hairstyle there, Michael, you showed up that he's got going on as well. No, for Juju, not you. I'm not. I wasn't taking this. No.
We can call you Juju if you wish.
Please don't. It's a bit like whenever Homer asks Bart, or it says the kids can call you Hoju. No, it's fine. Anyway, boys, it's been a crazy week. Didn't get to watch any of the football all week. Had to talk about NFL instead. Missed the game last night. It's been one of those weeks, but a bit of good news for me today, a bit of good news for Colin. Before we say the good news, Nate Geary is coming on. Irishman working in America on the NFL team in 20 minutes, just under 20 minutes, to talk about the Bills, the NFL, and his thoughts on the week as well. So if you have any Bills questions, feel free to get them in. Obviously a very underrated team, better team than the Steelers. On a different point, though, Justin Simmons, big news for the Broncos, big news for the FC West. A 4-year, $61 million deal gets paid. Colin, this was expected, but at the same time, it's good to see it being done for them, obviously. Hold on. Let's take our hats off here. What's your thoughts on this deal for the Broncos? Think it's a good deal? Think it's a bad deal? Yes or no?
I think it's a good deal. I think objectively it's a good deal because we know the market goes up and up and up, and given the TV deal, we know that it's going to go up again. So this is the highest that a safety is going to get paid. I imagine you'll see that rise again next year. But Simmons' play over the last 3 years in particular has been outstanding. He hasn't missed a defensive snap. He's exactly what you want when you draft somebody that they perform on and off the field. He's been a leader in the locker room. He's been a leader in the community. And I suppose for the Broncos this week, they have now re-signed Shelby Harris. They took the team option on Von Miller, and they've got the long-term deal done with Simmons. The talk in Denver had been that in the locker room, there had been a feeling that the Broncos weren't looking after their own guys, and that really you were going to have to leave Denver if you wanted to get paid. They seem to have righted that wrong this week, and I think that should lead to a lot more harmony in the dressing room. Definitely interested in the take on other fans from outside Denver, but certainly in Denver there is a lot of people rightly very happy because the feeling is this was a payday that Justin Simmons deserved.
Yeah, last week we touched on it around how the franchise tag has evolved over the past couple of years. In the past, players have been a bit disgruntled by putting on the tag, but now it's very much kind of evolved to players get tagged in order to give the team and the player more time to evaluate and get the deal together. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me. What I've picked up on this week, and maybe you guys have different thoughts on it, is that the Broncos for next season are building towards recreating that defense that they had under Wade Phillips. I mean, they brought in Darby this week, who's been a solid player over the last few years. Still think he has his inconsistencies, but he is a good enough cornerback in the league. You've also got, an opportunity now with Kyle Fuller being potentially released by the Bears, not confirmed yet. I think the Bears are holding off, hoping they get a late pick in terms of a trade. But if you're in the sweepstakes there and you could pull that off, as you touched on, Von Miller's coming back, Shelby's recontracted. But then you turn your attention to the offense, and is it the case that the Broncos are looking at us saying, let's get the defense right because the defense can keep us in games, and hopefully then our quarterback can make the step up next year, in order to win low-scoring games. And Michael, you touched on it a couple of months ago, they've been crippled with injuries. And if you look at man for man in terms of the players that the Broncos do have, 2 really good tight ends, some really aggressive wide receivers, and unfortunately there was Cortland Sutton so early last season, and then Jerry Jeudy's coming to a second year. So there is players there. It's just a case of whether the quarterback can make the step up. But defensively, certainly look like Fangio is getting his impact now coming into the 3rd year in terms of trying to build that defense up.
I made this joke once this week already, but with Terrence Mitchell signing for the Texans, Trent Williams going to the 49ers, and Ronald Darby signing with the Broncos, there's a lot of sign your name across my heart with Terrence, Trent, Darby, across all of them. Anyway, I'll let that die a slow and painful death. It's a great bit of business by the Broncos, but, we were just talking about Juju. He's only the 3rd wide receiver, I think, in Steelers history to get a second contract. Hines Ward and Antonio Brown being the other 2. The Broncos, it's almost been harder to get a second contract out, but not because of the talent, but because they seem to have been, as Colin alluded to, cheap asses who didn't want to pay people the right money. And now they talk about building from the lines out. It looks like almost you're building from the secondary in, because the Darby acquisition, I think, is good. There's nothing to fault in the Simmons deal. As always with all these deals, it'll be interesting to see how the money's broken up. It'll be interesting to see how the cap hits exactly play out. But it seems like good money for a very, very high quality safety. And of course, there are rumors abounding that Carl Fuller, who's recently been cut by the Chicago Bears for salary cap reasons, is also headed towards Denver. Not quite the way you build up that great defense from 5 years ago. It was very much on the line, and then kind of the back end with Talib and stuff, and Chris Harris, etc., supported. But you had a really strong defensive line. But yeah, I'm delighted for your secondary coach. I'm delighted for your defense in terms of the quality players you got there. But what are you going to do at quarterback? What are you going to do in that offense with releasing Philip Lindsay? They would be pressing concerns of mine if I was a Broncos fan. So, but a good bit of business. So fair play.
I noticed. Sorry, Colin, just a quick one. I noticed, and I know I sent it to you earlier on. There's more and more mock drafts starting to come down the line, where the Broncos are picking a quarterback. It's only really kind of come to pass in the past few days. In terms of players dropping down.
There's nobody out there. There's no people were talking about Andy Dalton, Mr. Trubisky, different guys. Ryan Fitzpatrick. They've all been taken up. The market's gone. It's like walking into a shop on Christmas Eve at 10:30 at night. There's no food left. There's nothing there, so they're going to have to draft a quarterback. But then if they draft a quarterback, then what's the point? Like, I mean, they already have a guy there that's going into his third year now. He has to get. I don't know.
You're only drafting a quarterback if he's going to be star. Let's be fair. Like, you've got to tour your quarterback with a rookie sitting, which is why we touched on it around Jalen Hurts in the second year, and it's been suggested they might draft a quarterback. It doesn't make any sense. So it's either you're drafting a quarterback and he's going to be playing come September, or you go with Locke and you go down a different route and potentially look at addressing linebacker Parsons from Penn State, someone like that, and. Because I don't think you need to go near the offense. Maybe potentially a running back. That could be also an option.
Just on the Simmons deal, the other thing that of note is Justin Simmons' agent is Todd France, who last year had his three big clients, Dak Prescott, Bud Dupree, and Justin Simmons, all play on the tag. And now all three just signed pretty sizable deals. So I imagine he is very happy. And if you are a player entering the league, you're going to look at Todd France as a guy who can get a nice deal for you. So he is certainly having a good week. Or is it 2 weeks or a week since Dak signed his deal? I mean, time seems to have warped. But basically, his three guys got massive deals within the last certainly 10 days.
So and Colin, sorry, Mark. Yeah, you say he's content, but he's also very busy because he's also the agent of Kenny Golladay, who is probably now at this stage the last man standing in terms of probably potentially the best free agent available, and he's a shrewd operator at the moment in terms of bringing teams into play today, putting it out there. Oh, these teams have all of a sudden come in on the sweepstakes.
Yeah, Brian, that was Sade, actually, smooth operator, but still. 4-year deals, all of those players as well, Colin. And again, we talk about the rising cap. The fascinating thing about that is, does he start agitating after 3 years and say, oh, the market dynamics have changed and we get through the two, difficult year this year and then a couple of maybe cheaper years, and then try to re-leverage the deals in year 3 of a 4-year deal? Is that on his thought process or horizon, especially for Dak and maybe for Justin Simmons as well? So, fascinating to see how it's all going to play together, as always.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a guest coming up in 10 minutes, so we're going to try and get another topic in. Looking forward to speaking to Nick Geary in 10 minutes. Just before we do that, whether you're watching this or listening on our podcast, we have launched merch this week. You got a promo code Paddy's, gets you €5 off, or if you're up in the north where the vaccines are mighty and it's all free, that's about £3.50. Sorry, boys, I had to throw the vaccine joke in there. 1% of the UK's population vaccinated today. You never know, there could be a wee London game, but we're not talking about that now. Big breaking news. Nothing at all, to be honest. Sorry about that, Brian. Let's touch on the Kenny Golladay. You talked about it there now.
Don't worry, if it breaks, I'll know first.
No, but you said it off camera because I didn't have a clue personally. Also, I just want to put one thing in as well. The Packers haven't signed anybody yet, no, at all. Like all week, they haven't signed anybody. I know, but I've seen a tweet about it and it went viral. Like I don't think they signed anybody. But yeah. Brian, you said off camera that the Golladay has landed in New York and he's at the facility. Is that true?
Well, I don't know whether I was tennis or whether I was having a rant, but he He's been in the Giants facility since early this morning, lunchtime, Irish time. And I mean, at this stage, they must be evaluating every comb hair that he has, because surely at this stage, we're in desperate need of a number one wide receiver.
I hope it's not like Wesley Sneijder going to United, that.
Remember the Berbatov situation where Berbatov went by in the corridor on the glass panel outside Old Trafford at the forecourt at 10:30, and it was 1:30 in the morning before the deal was announced. But this one is dragging, and as the day has progressed, snippets of information are coming out that he met with the Bears last night. They've offered a $12 million one-year contract, similar to what the Bengals have offered. The Ravens are supposed to be on the same, but the Ravens are being linked with every wide receiver, and they just don't have the cap. So it seems a bit of a strange one. To me, it looks like the agent is stirring the pot, and I won't say that, it's time to come off the pot, whatever the hell saying is, but how long does it take? And someone said to me today, it's a bit weird to see a player being brought into the facilities with a view to a signing. That's always been the way. Last year wasn't the way because of COVID, but up to 2 years ago, it was always the players arrived with a view to a signing.
Brian, Mike Florio says he's looking $18.5 million a year.
Well, that's what he's been looking for from day one. But I think he probably has to reevaluate at this stage, because we're 5 days into free agency, even if you include the tampering period, and he still hasn't got a deal. So you'd have to say he's not going to get the 18.5 million. But he is likely to get the long-term deal out of Giants. Sorry, Mark.
I know, don't say that, Brian. I mean, Bill Belichick getting $18.5 million for a year. He's like Father Christmas at the moment. Anyway, if he wants a one-year deal for $18.5 million, I'm sure the Pats will find some more cap space from nowhere. But not that I want to move off Kenny Golladay, because he probably is the most impactful and most exciting.
Well, Mark, there is news. Apparently, the talks are heating up. That is the term that's being used. Josina Anderson literally just said that talks between Golladay and the Giants are heating up. So, Brian, you can make of that what you will.
They're gone into the spa room in the facilities.
Oh God, this feels like this
is
is
the
like
worst
Jeff
thing I've heard.
Spelling and transfer day, but going on for 5 days with Kenny Golladay. To be honest with you,
exactly, Mark. That's the point. He's there all day. What at this stage? Surely the decision is made.
I mean, clearly, obviously, he's got serious reservations about what the Giants are going to do as a football team. But we'll see if they sign him. Michael, you mentioned the Packers. I mean, yes, they haven't signed anyone yet. In fact, their probably biggest move in free agency has been a loss in losing Corey Lindsay to the Chargers. They haven't immediately jumped to try to replace him. Alex Mack went to the 49ers. David Andrews just re-upped yesterday or today with the Patriots on a 4-year deal, which was a little bit of a surprise, but nice to see, because very much rate him as a center. But I wouldn't be worried if I was a Packers fan. Beware the quiet men. We touched on this a little bit the other night. The fact of the matter is there's going to be a lot of quality players there at very cheap deals. A lot of quality players there maybe on cheap 1-year prove-it deals. And the Packers and many of these people, and yes, they're not flush with cap space, but they'll pick up some good players in the end. They will pick and choose the rather than the big splashy deals that, I don't know, the Patriots have made, for example, and probably be more efficient in relation to it. So I wouldn't be worried as a Packers fan, but they've always been a little used participant in free agency. They don't use it to build their team. They build their team through the draft, and they'll continue to do that. So keep sticking to what they're doing. It's been reasonably successful, except
with the exception of 2 years ago when they brought in the Smith brothers. Well, not brothers, but that's what the joke was at the time. The two defensive players and Amos from the Bears. They've always been very quiet. That's, as Marcus alluded to, that's their style. They don't tend to overspend, and you find that 2 or 3 weeks into free agency, start picking up these kind of players at 2 or 3 million marks. And the way things are going, there's going to be a lot of those free in the next couple of weeks.
I've actually found an exclusive look at what Brian's been doing on his phone all day. But give me 1 second. Just before we do that, I just want to very quickly say, Mark, the Patriots casually tweeting today, we've signed 10 players. that was their tweet and the link. Here's an exclusive look at Brian's phone all day. Kenny Golladay signs with Giants, literally refreshing. Your wife must hate you at the minute, Brian. You're literally just sitting there all day typing this in. All day.
Do you know what the gas thing is, Michael? You're not too far off the truth. But between that and Cheltenham, I had a busy day.
Congrats to, I can't remember her name, boys. Irish jockey from Ireland, Hannah
Rachel Blackmore.
Jeez,
How do you not know her name?
I wasn't watching. I just seen that she won the other day, but obviously won against it. Congratulations, Rachel, if you're watching. I'm sure you are a big NFL fan. Boys, we've got a couple of minutes and Nate's going to come in. What's the crack? Any other topics you want to talk about for a couple of minutes?
I'd actually just wanted, sorry, because I was going to jump back. With the Simmons deal, I'd imagine Jamal Adams is looking at that now, going, show me the money next year when it comes around to his recontract with the Seahawks, because he tends to think he's the best safety in the league. And most people would agree with him. He's up there with Simmons, so he's probably looking at that going, there's the new benchmark for me. Hand that over to his agent.
Yeah, well, there's two other players, safety obviously playing on the franchise tag this season for the Saints and the Jets, so maybe they'll reset it even further. And he'll definitely be loving it and looking at it for the following season when, cap explosion should take place. I mean, we did talk about it in detail when we knew the deals were being done. Obviously, the formal announcements about the broadcast deals have gone through as well, the formal things that were all expected about the ABC getting 2 Super Bowls in the next 11-year period, and 9 Super Bowls split between CBS, Fox, and NBC in the normal way. There's a few little nuggets in there. I'm not going to say it's like contract porn for me, but there's a few things that were exciting and interesting. Amazon are getting exclusive rights around Thursday night, which was a little bit unusual.
That means nothing to us. It's like happy days. We're actually going to be ahead of half of America.
We're going to be ahead of half America, but it's fascinating news in America if you think about it, where they're actually making clear for 256 games a year, it's no longer. You've got to have everything. You've got to have the different options. The money is ridiculous. We touched about it. It's going to explode the cap. We are looking at $250 million of a cap in the not too distant future. And we're still looking at 53 players. And we're still only looking at a small practice squad because the union's already given all that away in their big, long 10-year deal with the owners. So it's not like there's going to be more players, but of course some will reset markets even more with this further broadcasting revenue. The NFL is the daddy of them all, quite simply. And Roger Goodell can get criticized for a lot of things, and rightfully so. But by God, there are some things he does exceptionally well. And negotiation and playing hardball with big-time partners is one of them he's doing well. And $25 billion of revenue becomes closer every single day.
But it's just funny how literally 2 or 3 days after the cap figures announced, the TV deal suddenly announced it. Now, if you're a player that's struggling to get somewhere next season, surely you're a little bit pissed off.
Well, take it up with your union, because your union agreed to an awful lot of this stuff. There have been a couple of really good pieces, which Mark probably contributed to, given his love of this stuff. But really good pieces over the last few days around kind of the negotiations. How they played out. Like, this did not just happen overnight. This has been in play for years, building up to this. And it would appear like everyone's going to make money, but the owners are going to make the most. So as the rich get richer. But it is if you are interested in this sort of stuff, because there will be plenty of listeners who, like Mark, enjoy it. There's lots to feast on at the moment, and Andrew Brandt on Twitter has been really good in relation to all of this stuff.
I can't wait to hear what's going to happen with that TV deal down the stretch. I mean, it'll definitely have repercussions here with different, well, for you boys anyway in the South, Champions League. There'll be a massive repercussion there, I reckon. Thanks very much, by the way, for that. Some of us were sort of using the freebie for the South to watch the Champions League, but now it's not going to happen. So thanks, Amazon. Thanks, everybody. We're just waiting on Nate to come in, boys. Very quickly, we might as well talk about it. Brian, have you any other subject that you want to talk about that people are talking about at the minute?
Well, I'm thankful we do have a legal guru here, so I'm
Stop talking now, Brian. Stop talking now.
So Deshaun Watson is in the news. We won't delve into it too much, but my only thoughts on it is where we all felt that he would be traded prior to the draft. I think the latest news could potentially derail that, and may find that he won't get the trade as soon as we think. But that's the only thing that popped into my head then from a football standpoint.
Yeah, let's be really, really careful and really clear about what we're going to say on this. So Deshaun Watson, if anybody hasn't seen the news or has been buried under a rock, has been accused of inappropriate behavior by a number of ladies who are involved generally in massages. I think it's accurate to say the plaintiff's lawyer is based in the Houston area and is kind of maintaining an action on behalf of a number of people. Deshaun, I think, made an initial statement on the first allegation and hasn't said anything since. The Texans organization has not said anything. But we do know that the NFL has reached out to the defendant's lawyer because the plaintiff's lawyer tweeted about it and said, "Here's the letter they just sent me recently." We'll have to see how all this plays out. Of course, there are pretty serious allegations in respect of it. There are a number of Texans fans who already sees that this is scurrilous, defamatory behavior, trying to, as a conspiracy theory, to do nasty things to Deshaun Watson and everything. I mean, if you told me there's a conspiracy theory that 32 owners of the NFL are conspiring against the players, I kind of would believe that one. I think other than that, people see conspiracy theories in lots of things. But let's see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
The course of law take its course.
Indeed. And fortunately, we have a guest to move along to a new subject.
Delighted to welcome a man, actually, boys, as talked about, saying he's 100% Irish, from Buffalo Sports Radio, Nate Geary. Nate, welcome into the show, man. I hope you can hear us okay, yeah? All good?
That would be a no.
Yeah. Are you on mute, Nate? Are you on mute? Double check. No, it seems to be going, no? Try it again. How's that now?
Hear me now?
Yes. Thank God for that. Nate, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
It's going good, fellas, other than these, technical difficulties. It's 2021, and I'm a millennial, and I'm still having trouble here, but it is what it is.
As we say here, it's grand. It's grand. Tell us, Nate, just before we even start talking about football and your background and, your team and stuff and your job, tell us about, have you any Irish heritage? What's your affinity to Ireland?
Well, first and foremost, in terms of the U.S. and U.S. football, I am a avid fan of the Lord's team, which is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So I've actually spent before COVID-19. I usually do every year. I do the home opener for Notre Dame. So I'll drive down to Indiana. It's about a 8.5, 9-hour drive, and go take in some college football and an unbelievable, experience at Notre Dame. But for myself, my family, my dad's side of the family is 100% Irish, and I've grown up a bit of, in the Irish lore. I'm an Irish beer drinker. Now I'll say this. My apartment here is mostly decorated by my girlfriend. I'm sure you gentlemen know, if you have significant others, you don't get a lot of say in what goes up on the walls. But if it was my, dorm room, like my college dorm room, I'd have several Irish pieces of memorabilia on the walls, Irish flags, so on and so forth. But for whatever reason, she says the Irish flag isn't very easy to decorate around. It's not a good centerpiece. I'm not sure.
Nate, just as well you spoke about your partner there, because your black cat just went past there a minute ago. I thought you were going to start talking about your cat.
No. So I've got 2 cats, and they're very camera friendly. They love the camera, so they will be at periodic times probably jumping up and trying to come see and talk to you guys. But no, they're harmless, and even though she's a black cat, she's got a white chest, so she's not unlucky. Yeah, we didn't cross any bad omens here.
She's not the black cat. She's not the black cat that was in MetLife a couple of years ago, is she?
No, not the same black cat.
Nate, just for the benefit of your girlfriend, it looks lovely, your apartment, by the way. She's done a lovely job with it.
Listen, she's not here, so we don't have to kiss her ass. Don't worry, she's not here.
Got it.
Nate, we see the buffalo cap that you have on. Can you talk us through your I suppose your buffalo fandom?
Surely. I actually, so I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. I grew up right where the Buffalo Bills play in Orchard Park, New York. I grew up in the neighboring town, Hamburg, New York. My high school football stadium in our north end zone, you could see the Bills practice facility and the lights for the stadium. So I am fairly what I would call born and raised a Bills fan in Western New York. I grew up, I went to college, I played football in college for my first few years, and then transitioned from recognizing that I wasn't going to be playing in the NFL to deciding I wanted to still talk about football and enjoy the game, but more than just a fan, I wanted to get into the media side. So I took an internship at the radio station here locally in Buffalo that covers the Bills. It's the flagship. And since then, I went from disc jockey that was overnighting, like larger, some of our syndicated shows, ESPN Radio, to getting in my own show. And now I host the pregame and the halftime and postgame show for the Bills on our network pregame. So it's pretty cool. It's, I'm not 30 years old. I'll be 30 years old at the end of this year. So as still a fairly young guy, it's pretty cool to be, on the radio talking about your childhood team. And my friends are certainly a little jealous about it.
Nate, can I just say, as somebody that turned 30 3 weeks ago, I love how you're referring to us as a relatively young guy. I think that's fantastic. Right. Yeah,
right.
the first main guest, like the first real big guest that we only started this around Halloween last year. We ended up getting Jim Kelly on in November, and Jim was talking about his Irish connections. He's got family in Belfast, for example. But
no kidding.
One thing that Jim did talk about, man, was that Bills team. And even when he was on, I was very much in the Bills corner all year, but to see that team go as far as it did and not fall at the final hurdle, but get very close to getting to the Super Bowl, as a Bills fan for years and as an analyst as well, going into this next season, how have you found, obviously what they've done this year and also in free agency so far?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty exciting in terms of, their stated mission, their stated goal was to try to bring back as much of their, good talent that were going to be free agents and available to sign elsewhere. And the Bills not only did that, they signed the three major free agents that I think basically everybody in Buffalo had sort of said, maybe you get two of those three. Maybe you only end up with one of those three. The Bills general manager, Brandon Beane, kind of the guy that's orchestrated this team, the construction of the roster, he was able to sign all three. He got all three before they were able to go to the free agent market to test, just how much they might be worth on the open market. And they were able to sign at deals that were significantly lower than their market value would have been elsewhere. The same trend has sort of gone on with the kind of surprise signing of Mitchell Trubisky, the Chicago Bears former quarterback and first-round pick, signing at a 1-year, $2.5 million deal when a guy like Andy Dalton goes out and signs a 1-year, $10 million deal in Chicago. You look at the two, and although I don't think anyone's bragging about Mitchell Trubisky's ability, I think we would probably agree you would rather have Mitchell Trubisky at $2.5 million than paying the Red Rifle, $10 million. And I think Andy Dalton did some good things, but I think he's a backup quarterback. And if he was, probably should be making more so of what Trubisky's making. But Trubisky, takes a lesser deal. He had offers to take more money to go to another team, but he chose to come to Buffalo for less money because this is, I think, a team and an organization that has cultivated a type of culture around the team and the locker room and the types of players they're going out into acquiring. Guys want to play here. I think they want to play with the guys in the locker room, but the coaching staff and the general manager is a very interesting shift in dynamics on how people around the league view the Bills. Instead of, maybe in the last decade or two thinking, hey, I might go here and you might never hear from me again. Or you may never see me play on Monday Night Football. The Bills didn't play on Sunday Night Football for over 10 years. So, you didn't get the primetime games here. Now the Bills are going to be in a position to be playing on prime time, and you guys will be able to watch them, and they'll be playing internationally, and because they're a commodity that people want to see now. So they're far more like the Jim Kelly Bills now than they were probably the Bills of my maybe most recent memory, which would have been, 2 decades of no playoffs, which wasn't great growing up with. And as a Bills fan growing up, Tom Brady has really kind of scarred and ruined most of my teen years, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Well, Nate, that's actually bringing me to the question I have for yourself. Another team in your division that players tend to want to play for is the Patriots and Bill Belichick. And, a lot of people feel that they've gone into the night, but I think we've quickly picked up on this week. Bill Belichick ain't going anywhere. If anything, he's more motivated than ever to kind of reestablish the Patriots and put them back where he believes they belong. So were you looking at this week thinking, oh my God, here they come again, because they've made a lot of good signings?
So I think they made a lot of volume signings. I think it got a lot of guys. And I think for the most part, they probably overpaid for a couple of them. Particularly, I'm thinking the wide receiver, Nelson Aguilar, they go and get from the Las Vegas Raiders, and they pay him lots and lots of money, maybe more money than Juju Smith-Schuster just signed for in Pittsburgh. And I think, if you're picking between Juju Smith-Schuster and Nelson Aguilar, I think everyone would agree Juju Smith-Schuster's the better player. So how does Nelson Aguilar end up with more money? Well, I think New England had a lot of money to throw around. They were willing to throw it around. And I think Tom Brady's success probably lit the fire of Bill Belichick. I think I'm not sure that Bill goes to sleep thinking about, showing up Tom Brady. But I'm certain that he doesn't go to sleep particularly happy that Tom Brady's being talked about as the real architect of that dynasty in New England and the real engine behind all that success. And I think, that certainly is eating away at Bill Belichick. But my issue is those signings are great. I think there's a lot of really good value in there. I think they got a lot of good starting caliber players. The question I have, who's playing quarterback? And as a Cam Newton fan myself, I loved Cam Newton coming out of college. I really wish he would end up, had the Bills not won 2 extra games at the end of the year, maybe they end up getting the number 1 pick and getting the opportunity to draft Cam Newton. Instead, they end up with Marcel Darius, and he's doing what we're doing now. He's drinking beers and enjoying podcasts. So, I like Cam Newton a lot, but at the same time, he looked shot. I mean, his arm looked, I'll tell you, give me a couple weeks to warm up and, get this arm going again. I think me and Cam Newton are right there throwing the football. He just did not look like the player that, I think all of us maybe remember him being in that MVP year and the Super Bowl run. But without a quarterback, all those signings don't mean too much. And I guess that's really where I come down to is, hey, great signings, Bill. I think you guys are going to be more competitive. I think maybe you're a playoff team, but who's playing quarterback?
When you came on, I thought it was actually Chad Pennington coming on with the hat and the arm there. So maybe you can come out with
Chad Pennington. He's not exactly known for the arm strength, though, that Chad Pennington.
And he never got to the Bills. Jets and Dolphins, half of the AFC East at least.
Yeah, most of the AFC East, just not the Bills, right?
I mean, look, I can fully understand your fear of Tom Brady, if you like. Unfortunately, Nate, I'm on the other side. I'm a Pats fan, so 28-3 is
nobody told me that.
I know we try not to. We try to leave it as a surprise.
Oh man.
We all
28-3 is a figure that the Falcons hate. I mean, 32-3, which is Brady's record against the Bills, I'm sure is a figure you're not best pleased with.
Did you have that right on cue? Did you know that right in your head?
I do kind of have it up there, yeah. I mean, and of course, Belichick, you're right. I mean, he's only going for the 9th ring this season because he's got 2 of the Giants. But they'll catch up. Maybe him and Brady will have a bit of a fight off in relation to it. I suppose I did want to ask you a little bit about the free agency piece. As you said, the Bills haven't been that active, and arguably they don't need to be in terms of picking up other players because you picked up Hollister, you picked up Mitch Trubisky, you re-signed your own players, which was the important thing. I'd argue Milano was a bit expensive for an inside linebacker, especially the later cap hits, but good bit of business, good player, critical to your defense. I flip the question a little bit. I mean, you guys could have used Cam Newton as a running back maybe last year because your running game wasn't where you wanted it to be. Is that the biggest hole that you think Buffalo need to now address in the draft? Or are there other holes like locally you kind of think, we need a bit of depth here or we could do with something else here? Where's the roster construction, the Nate Geary household going for Buffalo when April ends?
So it's a good question. I think a lot of people looked at the issues the Bills had running the football and they wanted to really just point at the running backs and say, hey, these guys just aren't getting the job done. And I don't think anybody here in Buffalo wants to see this team run more. I think everyone was really excited that for the first time they felt like they had a team that was on top of the NFL in passing attempts and passing yards and passing touchdowns. For the last 2 decades, you don't have a quarterback capable of doing that. And I think Josh Allen's emergence last year had a lot to do with their willingness to open it up, to throw the football and move away from running it. So for us, it's less of, do they need a high-end 3-down bell cow, Christian McCaffrey, even if you look at this draft, Travis Etienne, the guy that I think a lot of people in Buffalo might say they want, right? This running back who can maybe is a straight line speed guy, but has the strength to run between the tackles and be an every down back. And I think people here start to say, well, does having an every down back here make sense? Is drafting a running back with the 30th pick in the first round, or going out and paying Philip Lindsay, or going out and paying Chris Carson, the Seattle running back, because we want to be able to run the ball better, the smart move. When I think in reality, the running backs last year were fine. I don't think they were great. I don't think they were bad. But I think they're fine for how much this team wants to run the football. I think the offensive line needed to play better at times last year. And, they kind of are running it back with the same guys this upcoming season. So for me at the draft, I'm looking for, can you add a really nice young interior offensive lineman to the mix? That's kind of the hole I think I'm looking for this team to fit. They re-signed John Feliciano. Hey, that's great. But I think for me, Feliciano is probably best in kind of a rotational role. Can they draft a guy at 30? Can they draft a guy in the second round that can really be sort of the future of the interior offensive line? So for me, they become better at running the football, not by running it more, but by running it more efficiently. So next year, for me, I think a lot of it has to do with, I don't think they were running the scheme the right way. And I think the Bills offensive coordinator, Brian Dable, he would probably admit to you a lot of the run problems started with his play calling. And they weren't running in good situations. So I think if they can get better situational play calling from the offensive coordinator, they can get a little bit better in terms of run blocking up front, which I think better play calls will feed into more successful run plays along the offensive line. But I think they need better play overall from the offensive line in general. And I think they would say that. I think there's a lot of injuries last year that you could make excuses for. So do I think they should go after a big-time running back? I wouldn't hate it, right? I wouldn't hate it. But I don't think this team is prioritizing it because I think ultimately they could run it back with the same team next year. And I want to see them continue throwing the football. That's how they won games last year. It's how they're going to continue winning games in the future. So for me, I'm fine if they upgrade. I'm fine if they don't. I think the best way to make a better run game next year, a more efficient run game, is by adding more pieces to the offensive line for the future.
Sure. And better situational football, I mean, Brian Daboll might have learned a bit from Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, obviously, in his coaching evolution to get there.
Certainly, and I think his background with both coaches, I think would tell him that you play into the strengths of your team, right? And I don't think at times last year Brian Daboll ran a lot of outside zone plays, which really relies on speed from the running back, which, by the way, they don't have. Their running backs are not fast but quick. I would say more agile than straight line speed. So you need to run plays that run into the strengths of the running backs. And I don't think they ran running back plays the strength of the players that they had in the backfield. And I also don't think they ran strength to what they can do up front on the offensive line. And so I think if they can maybe lean into their strengths a little bit more, something I'm sure Brian Daboll probably learned from his time with Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, his team changes who they are every week based on the opponent. They're going to lean into the things they know they can do, and they're going to stop the things they know the other team can do. And I think for Brian Daboll, he takes those principles and applies them. I think it's why he's going to end up being a head coach very soon in the league too.
Nate, that's why I felt the Trubisky signing wasn't a surprise, because he's the type of quarterback. He has similarities to Josh Allen. He's not as good as Josh Allen, don't get me wrong, but he's mobile. He can run the ball. He can run if he has to run. If there's a run pass option type scenario. He's got a reasonably good arm, and people were a bit down on him last year, but he did throw a lot of touchdowns for the Bears, and he could pick up the offense. And if there was a case where he had to come in and help the team, he could hold his own.
29 wins as a starter, and this is no offense. I think the Bills' backup quarterback, Matt Barkley, is well loved in the community. But I'm not sure the Bills felt comfortable if Josh Allen were to go down. And we know the way that Josh plays. He's not hey, I'm going to take a slide or I'm going to run out of bounds to avoid contact. Josh Allen often welcomes it or even initiates that contact and that physicality. I mean, most of the plays we all see on YouTube or we see on ESPN top 10 plays are him, trying to stiff arm a linebacker to the ground or hurdle over a 6'5" defensive end or something. Those are the types of plays that Josh had. So there was always that risk of injury. And I just don't think they felt like they could continue running the same type of offense if Matt Barkley had to come in the game. So I think Mitchell Trubisky offers a lot of things in a one-year contract. I think he's motivated to change some of the narratives about him. And maybe he's not able to do that with, his on-field play, but maybe he's able to come into his system and work with Josh Allen and work with Brian Dable and pick up some things. And the other guy too is, if you guys are college football fans like I was, Ken Dorsey, who the Bills quarterbacks coach, is a really storied college football player for the University of Miami during that early 2000s run that they had, and with Larry Coker, and he was going to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. And this is a guy that's sort of teaching Josh and as coaching these players up. So he comes into a situation where he can be coached up, maybe clean up some of the mistakes and use the Bills as a one-year gap to get to next offseason and potentially fight for a starting job elsewhere. So I think it's a no-brainer because they didn't pay a lot of money for him. And they've got some long-term security. Somebody on Good Morning Football this morning, maybe it was Peter Schrager, who tweeted, he thinks the Bills have the best two quarterbacks in the division. And I don't know if I want to go that far, but I think there's an argument to be made.
Nate, just last one for me, man. Is there any other move, maybe not just on the East Coast, but is there any other move across the NFL this week that has made you go, whoa? And then just looking ahead to the weekend, any other surprising move you might think that might be on the radar that isn't being talked about?
So, whoa, like, hey, that's a great move, or whoa, what the hell is that team doing?
Both.
Either or.
Oh. All right, so how about what the hell is that team doing? The Tennessee Titans signing Bud Dupree for an $18.5 million per year deal, guaranteeing him $33.5 million coming off of a major ACL tear of his knee. Not to mention, they just drafted Jeffrey Simmons, who's an up-and-coming pass rusher. They've got the kid from Boston College, and his name is escaping me, as another good edge pass rusher. That is a luxury pick for a team that just lost their number 2 receiver, their number 3 receiver, their number 1 tight end. That was a real head scratcher for me. They set the market for a guy coming off of a major injury. That move I'll never quite understand to me. And then I'd say the wow move would be the Kansas City Chiefs going out and setting the market and spending $80 million on Joe Thuney. That was certainly maybe not expected. I knew they were going to go out and try to go get an offensive lineman after they lost both their starting tackles, Mitchell Schwartz and Mike Remmers, and who's the left tackle as well, Eric Fisher. So they lose 3 tackles. I'm assuming they're going to go out in there. Obviously, they were right in it to the end with Trent Williams as well. So clearly they're out there trying to spend some money on the offensive line. That was probably the sort of wow move for me. And frankly, guys, in terms of moves on the horizon, there are more quality free agents than I think a lot of people thought there would be this late into the process. Richard Sherman's still out there. Kyle Fuller, he's going to get nabbed up after getting released by the Bears. Kenny Galladay is another name that still hasn't decided on where to play. So I think for me, the move on the horizon I'm going to be watching is what Kenny Galladay ends up doing. A lot of talk that the Bears really want to pair him with Allen Robinson this year. I don't understand why they've got Andy Dalton. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's not really an appealing move if you're Galladay, the player himself. But if they're going to pay him $14 or $15 million, yeah, I mean, maybe you just go and sign up for that. But I think ultimately Galladay is going to end up going to the New York Giants and signing a multi-year deal with the Giants and end up being their number 1 wide receiver, which I think would be a really good move for them. So I think that's probably the move on the horizon that I think will be maybe not a shocker, but I don't think a lot of people had the Giants going in there and scooping up the best wide receiver on the market.
Nate, as a Giants fan, I suppose our situation was until the Leonard Williams contract was resolved, we weren't in a position to start, looking at players like Galladay. Thankfully, they got that sorted. Cap came down by 10 million for the year, allowed them to start actually pursuing Galladay properly. So that's how that came about. It wasn't on the horizon until the deal thankfully got done.
Yeah, and Leonard Williams
was going to be so funny. Sorry. That's it.
No, Leonard Williams is a big move for the Giants too. Like they needed to wrap that up. And to your point, if they let that sit a couple more days, they're likely not in a position, like you mentioned, to be in a position for Kenny Galladay. So it's a good job by Gettleman, who, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Gettleman. I don't think he's quite figured things out over there. But I mean, it's a big year for Daniel Jones. We'll see. What's your impression of Daniel Jones? Are you excited? Like, where are we with him?
I'm a bit like the two guys who are support the Broncos. We're kind of we have mixed thoughts on it. We see the potential. I feel that he hasn't had a proper chance because he hasn't had really good players around him.
And that's fair.
The first year Slayton was really good. He dropped off last year. The Golden Tate signing never made any sense. It came in very quickly after the Odell Beckham trade. They gave him a big contract. They were looking for an outside receiver when he's predominantly a slot receiver. So they haven't really given him proper players. I actually think the Kyle Rudolph sign is a really good one. Yeah,
I do too.
Not just because he's in the red zone, he's very efficient, but more so for his blocking. Dalvin Cook over the years has continuously talked about how he helps him in terms of the run game, and that's what we need for Saquon Barkley if he comes back next season to the player that we hope he does. That he could be the one that kind of springs the gaps for him to go and show the player that he is. So, but just back on Jones, it's a make or break year. If he doesn't do it this year, this is it. It's over.
Nate, listening to you, a number of things jumped out. One, I am trying to get a campaign going to free the Bears have one of the best wide receivers in the league, and they shouldn't have him. He shouldn't be there. So I want to see him free from the Bears. I thought franchise tagging him was unfair given they brought in Dalton. The other thing that stood out to me was you mentioned Philip Lindsay. Whoever gets Philip Lindsay is getting a hell of a running back wherever he goes in this league. I think he's going to do a fantastic job for somebody as long as they know how to use him, because I don't think he was used in the right way in Denver. And I think Mark has a point before we jump out.
I was just going to say, Colin, you watched the trial of the Chicago 7, and now you just want to make it free the Chicago 1 when it comes to Mr. Robinson, which is funny.
Yes.
But Nate, we're all looking at you probably jealously as well, because you're right, the Patriots don't have a quarterback, and the three boys between Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are just dreaming that year 3 they suddenly turn into Josh Allen like he matured in Buffalo, and a near MVP season from him last year. So fair play to you, the Buffalo Bills, the reigning AFC East champions, which it pains me to say.
And as you know, Mark, heavy wears the crown. It's heavy. Everyone's sort of coming at you. Everyone's going to give you their best. Yeah, listen, I think Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are right in that same situation, right in that same conversation. I think Daniel Jones showed and flashed that rookie season. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like them bringing in Jason Garrett to be the offensive coordinator. I think that's ultimately why we saw the step back. On top of, though, they certainly just did not have the weapons around Daniel Jones that they needed to make him successful. Obviously, you lose Saquon Barkley, you're losing one of the best running backs and overall players in the league. That's hard to overcome as a second-year player who's trying to take that step. And Drew Lock, the same thing. Flashed, had that 300-yard game as a rookie, but never really was able to put together. But again, they surrounded him with uber rookies. I mean, they had 3 young players, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. He had guys around him that are all young rookie players, and you can't really lean on those guys. Josh Allen goes out, and the Bills surround him with a legitimate top 3-4 wide receiver from Stephon Diggs. You put one of the best, I think, underrated slot receivers in all the league in Cole Beasley. You get that deep threat with John Brown. That was the difference for Josh Allen. And I think until a team goes out and gets a Kenny Galladay for Daniel Jones and Cortland Sutton coming back for Denver is going to be huge for them to round out that I think pretty darn good receiving core with Noah Fant at tight end. Listen, if I'm betting on one of those two, I'm probably betting on Drew Lock just based on the pieces around him. But frankly, I think they surrounded both those quarterbacks with some pretty crappy play callers, if you're asking me. Some pretty crappy play callers with and the Giants' old coach, Pat Shurmur, is the offensive coordinator there. So it's just, they conservative guys that really aren't going to allow these young guys with arms to flourish like I think Brian Dable did for Allen.
Yeah, as we say in Ireland, man, this was great crack. We'll definitely have to get you on again, whether it's for the draft, the Bills, or just in general, 100%, and we appreciate
Fridays.
That. Everybody follow.
I was going to say Fridays are my days where I'll drink a pint, and I'd be happy to come on with you guys whenever.
At Nate Geary Sports, follow Nate. Nate, appreciate your time, man. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully chat to you again soon.
My pleasure, fellas.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate.
Cheers, Nate. All the best,
Take
man.
care.
It was good chatting. It was good crack. Thanks very much, Nate, for coming on. You can follow Nate on Twitter at Nate Geary Sports. I think we could have talked to him about the Broncos and Giants there for about 25 hours. We've got breaking news. It's not that one. Sorry, it's actually about Deshaun Watson. And I can see Colin going, "Oh no!"
Every time Deshaun Watson.
But this is from the Houston Police Department. At this time, Houston Police Department is unaware of any contact between Houston Police Department and Houston Attorney Tony Busby regarding the allegations contained in his recently filed lawsuits, and no incident reports regarding these allegations have been filed in our jurisdiction. That has just been announced on Twitter and has been written. Well, I've had more texts from Ian Rappaport this week than my wife.
Michael, Michael, for those out there who know about the Deshaun Watson situation, obviously people have read the story. When you said the police have said there's been no contact, I assume you were going into a situation there around the story itself, but thankfully you didn't go down that road.
I was just reading out a tweet. And my dear Lord, boys,
look, it's been an interesting evening on the what's become the Giants roadshow, and I think
it certainly makes a change. I'll tell you that.
It's one that will hopefully be forgotten. Nate was great. Hopefully we can have him back on and we can avoid any legal issues.
Absolutely, and I'm presuming, because we don't know this, we're not going live this weekend, boys. That's the plan. We're not going live.
No, we're not going live unless Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson signs with a different team. We are not going live. It was lovely.
If Kenny Galladay doesn't sign with the Giants and he signs somebody else, we're going live. 100%.
No, we're talking about big deals, Michael, not just any old wide receiver. But it was lovely having Nate on, because it's lovely hearing from someone who supports an actual New York-based team. So that's good. As opposed to those New Jersey teams.
Yeah, well, as opposed to the 6-hour drive from Manhattan to Buffalo instead of the 20 minutes out to New Jersey. Yeah.
Hey, it's about the state, Brian. It's not just about a small part of the city.
Well, you see, you can make those comments, but you need to go and evaluate the story behind the move before you come on slandering.
It is the New York Giants Irish NFL podcast show.
Yeah, but if you're going to fucking have a slag, make sure you know your facts.
Oh yeah, they play in New Jersey. I know my facts. They play in New Jersey.
You don't know the story behind it.
Simple as.
Well, they were trying to build a stadium in central New York, weren't they? And it was rejected by the state, I'm presuming.
Yeah, and then they wanted to move the Mayo Yankee Stadium and send them 6 hours up the road. Where Buffalo play. Okay. You're not going to do that.
Well,
you want to have your ticker tape parade, you have it in New Jersey, yeah?
I don't really care, to be honest. I mean, it's grand. It's grand. It's the Giants. It's grand. It's the Bills, etc. If you're still with us,
what do you mean it's the Giants? What do you mean it's the Giants? As in, we're just the old Giants down the road. 4 Super Bowls.
Okay, that's all right. That's fine. It's all good. We're all still gonna have a lovely sleep tonight. Can I just say, boys, it's been a good crack this week. We're obviously back next Friday. Let's see, maybe Monday, maybe Wednesday. I don't know yet. Let's see what happens in the league. Very unlikely we'll be live this weekend. Can I ask everybody watching this or listening to this, if you're on the podcast, please hit the subscribe button. Please do. Well, we don't have any jobs yet, but it might keep us in the job in the future. Please leave a review and don't just be nice. I'm joking. If you do have one of these things now called a phone or a computer, IrishNFLshow.com, you can get some merch. Promo code Paddy's gets you 5 yo-yos off. We'll try and get it in Queen's English if you're up in Northern Ireland. Leave it with me. I'm trying. I can't do it. But sure, look, it's grand. Just get a Monzo account and just get it in euros. I know you get a fee every. See, these boys don't care about this. You get charged a fee every time you buy something in euros, boys. But it's been a hard week for a Bears fan, boys. I'm going to leave you all with a special message until next week. And don't worry, it's not this.
Hold up.
And it's not this. It's something different. So this is for all the Bears fans. Boys, I hope you have a lovely weekend. See you later.
Good night.
Bye, Brian. Good luck. Yeah.
Good evening, guys.
Okay.
God bless.
Night, everybody. Good luck. Good evening.
Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. And tomorrow, just like today, the moon, the bear, and the big blue house will be waiting for you to come and play. To come and play. To come and play.